Hello, investors. It's Don Vandenbord, Senior Portfolio Manager with Revere Asset Management. Today is Monday, October 9th, 5:03 p.m. Eastern Time, coming to you from St. Augustine Beach, Florida, with tonight's Revere Market Insight video. State of the market, we're in a weak uptrend as of the Friday follow-through day. On the NASDAQ, check the trend gauge over here. We've upgraded leadership from bearish downtrend to neutral based on the behavior of some leading stocks Friday and continuing to act well today. Short term, we're still on downtrend with 4 of the 5 major indexes below their 21-day exponential moving average. NASDAQ 100, however, got its second close above today. That's the leading index over the last week or so. Medium term, all 5 of the major indexes still below the 50-day moving average. Mixed bag relative to the 200-day moving average, with small, mid, and the Dow below, NASDAQ 100 and the S&P above. So what just happened? Well, Saturday morning, a sneak attack from terrorist group Hamas into Israel, taking hostages, killing hundreds of people. A music festival for peace, ironically, was hit very hard. Just some really gruesome stuff coming out of there. And Israel, pretty strong military, taking a very strong response back at Hamas over the weekend and into today. And that resulted in a gap down when the futures opened Sunday night, and all through the night and into the morning, carrying through about an hour, and then a strong reversal to the upside. Now, this is pretty key. Why is it key? Well, with the follow through day, one of the first things that you don't want to see is distribution in one of the 3 days after that happens. And that was clearly on the board if we would have continued lower. However, volume would have been lighter. So that uh, technically wouldn't have been a distribution day. The strong positive reversal is somewhat in sync with the seasonality. Mid October is when the turn often starts to happen from a seasonal standpoint. So we got a positive there. We also have rates pull back as money flowed into bonds as a safe haven. The dollar was weak today. Those have been some headwinds on the market. And when bad news happens and the markets don't react to it, that's um, considered a good sign when you would expect things to go lower. However, there is an old, and it's over 200 years old, an old financier, Rothschild, said in the 1810s that it's advisable to buy the cannons and sell the trumpets, meaning when war begins, it's a good time to invest in the markets, and when war ends, you should take profits. And that's what we ended up seeing today throughout the day. That, along with the positive action and leadership stocks, led us to get a little bit longer today. Here are the final numbers. The big seven, only two of them down, Tesla down and Nvidia down, 5 of the 7 higher. Net on average up 0.27%, RG8 up 0.6%, S&P gap down 0.45, finished up 0.63, NASDAQ 100 gap down 0.65, ended up 0.5%, Dow up 0.6, mid caps up 0.75%, Russell up 0.6, Global 60/40 up 0.53. This was buoyed by bond prices as yields pulled back with a safe haven bid into bonds. But emerging markets and foreign stocks were red on the day, so that dragged down the stock component of it. The U.S. Is about 55 or so percent of the global index. In-house GROTECTION up 0.57% today. We'll hit the tail of the tape and charts of interest. Let's get into it. We'll start off with the S&P 500. We'll go to a 5-minute chart. And you can see very clearly the gap down. We stayed down, and then between 10 and 11, we started working our way higher. A little bit of a pullback. This pullback held the 4,300 level. That's a big positive. That's been a battleground. And then a strong early afternoon move to the upside into 43.42, a little bit of a flag into the close. Let's take a look at it on a daily chart. You can see second close above the 80 MA. That's our ultra short-term indicator, which has now hooked up. running into the declining 21-day moving average, which is now flattening out. So the next thing the bulls want to get is a move above the 21, and any pullback to test it would hold. Ideally, that's what you'd want to see if you're a bull. Let's go to the NASDAQ 100 and check out the leading index. Second close above the 21, coming into the declining 50-day moving average. What we want to see is any pullback to the 21 holds, and then a break above the 50-day moving average. That's if you're a bull, that's what you want to see. The bears were probably pretty emboldened at the open today with the gap down. Here's the Dow, second day off the lows, second close above the ADMA, still below the black line, the 200, the green line, the 21, the red line, the 50-day moving average. Mid caps participated also, second day off the low and off of that 440 level, and small caps very similar, second day off low. Actually, four closes higher now. At the several undercuts and touches of this 170 area, a really big area for small caps to hold. Above the ADMA, hey, you got to start somewhere. Let's go to the VIX now. VIX initially up strong in the morning as the markets gapped down, came back and closed near the lows of the day. That's a positive for stocks. How about the dollar? UUP. Dollar closed lower, and you can see it gapped up, made a cup, failed cup, and then came off hard early afternoon as the markets pumped their way higher. This is two closes below the short-term 8 EMA, signaling a ultra short-term change in trend. We want to keep an eye on this. If today's highs can be capped, we'll see how it acts when it comes into the uptrending 21, which it's been holding for, man, almost 3 months. And weaker dollar is good for stocks. You know, it's good for precious metals too. GLD today up 1.8%, gap up, held the gap, closed at the top of the range, reclaiming the ADMA. That's GLD. Gold stocks up for a third day, up 2.4%. Silver 1.7%. Bitcoin down 1.54%, hanging out around its 21-day moving average. Now the broad bond index. The bond markets were closed today, but the instruments that reflect the ETFs that reflect them traded, and there was a very clear bid into bonds today. The implication is that interest rates will open lower when the bond pits reopen tomorrow. They were closed today for Columbus Day. So BND up 1%, TLT up a big move, up 2.35% today. Don't have a quote on the TYX and the TNX because the markets were closed. Let's get to the tail of the tape now. Week up trend. VIX was much higher, finished lower. Bear case under pressure now. The news obviously triggered bond prices up, oil up strong, stocks gap down, negative, and then a positive reversal. Second day up on our day count, second day above the ADMA on the NASDAQ, and basically day 0 versus the 21 as we got back above it, closed less than 0.1% below it. I'd give plus or minus 0.1% to call that basically flat. Expectations changing if we continue to see strength in the S&P to accompany the strength in the NASDAQ. Sectors up today. I mentioned the dollar. Oil's big time, as can be expected. Middle East conflict always impacts oil. Cybersecurity also very strong today. ITA, that's aerospace defense. That's going to be our featured sector tonight. And real estate and industrials on the downside. KRE barely negative, biotech negative, semiconductors lag. So what did we add to in-house? CrowdStrike, Zscaler, and FangU. We added to these three, and we started 4 new positions: VRT, NRGU, UPRO, that's leveraged index ETF, and Nutanix. So 2 stocks from the 21 over 21 list joining CrowdStrike and Zscaler. Added the energy ETF back. We've had a good experience with that this year, and really Today's lows should hold. It's that simple. If not, that is a failed move higher. Bottom line of the day, Israel Hamas gap down, but a broad, strong positive reversal. NASDAQ 100 gets its second close above the 21-day moving average. Let's take a look at the charts of the things that we added to and bought today. We'll start with Zscaler, gap up and solid strength on cybersecurity stocks. Zscaler and CrowdStrike, we doubled our position from 1.5 to 3% on these, looking to add more at a more reasonable um, entry point. They're getting a little bit extended, but you can see the volume the last 2 days definitely supported that. FNGU, we added to that. FNGS is the underlying index. And you can see that cleared the 50-day moving average today, showing relative strength not only to the S&P, but also against the NASDAQ 100. VRT, we got stopped out of this a while back, added back, bought it back today. Definite strength, good volume, slightly below average, but very nice pattern forming up, and the relative strength has been there even after its earnings gap up, which compare the relative strength line to what's going on with the S&P 500. That tells you all you need to know about VRT, also about Nutanix. Uh, Move up on earnings 4 weeks ago, just going sideways in a fairly tight base since then. Tight inside day today after a nice move up on Friday. And then NRGU. Uh, we got out, missed this move down. Our last exit was at 500 when we broke the 21-day EMA, went all the way back to the 400 level, gapped up today when it held and challenged its highs on the day and back above the 80 MA. Very easy stop out point if this doesn't work, NRGU. So those are the changes we made to the portfolio. Let's hit the defense sector right now. When you think of aerospace defense, you think of Boeing. Boeing doesn't have that big of a defense department exposure relative to its domestic aerospace, and I shouldn't say domestic, I should say uh, commercial, non-military. But look at this horrible downtrend that's been in, and this is a big reason. This is a big weight in a lot of these aerospace indexes. So if you look over to ITA, that's why it looked as bad as it did until today with the gap up above the 21-day moving average. Another one that is DFEN. This is a 3 times big gap up there, clearing above its 21. Now let's look at our favorite name in the group is GD. Let's look at a weekly chart. This weekly chart looks really good. You've got a very clear downtrend line here, base on base, gap up. The volume was there today. This is our number one stock in the group. We're looking for an entry into this if this defense trade continues to be strong, up to on 8% today on 240% above average volume. That's the best looking one. DFEN is a 3 times ETF, gap up above the 21 today. ITA also, which I showed, but let's go to some of the other individual names that are most familiar. There are some better looking charts, but they're too thin for us. Lockheed Martin, uh, also a big component in ITA, big move up, big volume, broken chart. But again, we could get into DFEN or GD are the two that we're really looking at the best. Raytheon, another terrible chart, but it gapped up still below its declining 21, and Northrop Grumman NOC. Uh, Not as good looking as GD, but certainly better than Lockheed and Raytheon. Gap up 11% on 300% above average volume. I'm going to set my alert there at 475, just so that I'll know what's going on with the sector. And that's a quick look at the military, aerospace defense. Couple of other good-looking names today that came across our list that are on our short list for buying. Palantir has it's a software company, but it has an artificial intelligence military component to it. That looked pretty good. Also, leading stock DUOL, Duolingo. Nice move today. Great volume patterns. Broke out of a double bottom base, failed, making another move out. So that's a look at some leaders. And with that, we're going to wrap it. As always, like to hear from you. The email is don@revereasset.com. The phone is 855 Real Wealth. That's 855-732-5932. If you're interested in becoming a client, you can reach out to Dan Stewart, my partner, dan@revereasset.com. Reminder, it's not how much you make in the markets. It's not how much you make, it's how much of that you can keep. This is the chart that should reinforce every time you take a look at what's going on with the markets. Bear markets, they all happen below the 200-day moving average. We held the 200-day moving average on the last pullback on the S&P 500. And now we're bouncing off that level, had a follow through day and continuing to the upside. If this continues, we'll keep increasing our exposure. And with that, I'm going to wrap up the video for Monday, October 9th. This is Don Vandenbord with Revere Asset Management, telling it like it is. Thanks for listening and have a great day.